FightSaga.com and Halftime Pizza proudly present WAWR Week Radio Chats with ring announcer and commentator Joseph Heron.
Guys, welcome. Happy Saturday to everybody. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful weekend. It's funny. Last night I had so much fun in that marathon on Boxing Gems last night. Spent the entire evening watching the fights over there with my brother Ryan and Boxing Gems and everyone who was in the panel. And you know what? I've been doing my Pat Summerall so often. It's starting to become my actual voice. It's almost like if you're a musician, and Bruce and G Funky, you guys will understand this. If you're actually doing a syncopation, like doing a triplet, and you keep doing it, well, it often becomes your natural rhythm then of the song. And so I need to get out of that habit because I'm starting to I was doing all of my impressions last night. Morgan Freeman, Pat Summerall, John Madden. I even did let's see, what did I do? Steve Farhood, Dan Raphael. Did Teddy Atlas, of course, did Max Kellerman, Emmanuel Stewart. And so yeah, I need to start getting out of that and start, wait a minute. What is my real voice after all? So anyway, guys, I had so much fun. And I just wanted to thank Ryan publicly on Boxing Gems. He always does a great job, very insightful. And guys, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to my brother Ryan at Boxing Gems. Wanted to just thank him for being such a gracious host and for allowing me to, chop it up with him for about 4.5 hours last night, guys. So, guys, and he brought up something that I've already known to be true, right? I've known this to be true for several years. And, guys, I'm getting kind of insulted, actually, as of late, because everything that, look, if we tell you on this channel that something is our opinion, we will word it that way, especially me, as I do commentary and ring announcing, and I understand, and I write frequently, right? And so I'm very, very proficient at explaining things to where there's no misunderstanding, right? And that's what I do. And I'm very conscious of that. And so when I say something, in my opinion, I will word it that way so you understand that it's my opinion. But if I'm saying that this is the way it is, this is the reality of the business of boxing, guys, that's the business. That's the reality of the business of boxing. Okay? And there's a reason why I'm telling you this, guys, because most fans, even guys within the business, get it wrong. Tim Bradley was talking about, he was invited to speak at the NABF convention, where they would go over the rules, the judging, the refereeing, the officiating, all of that. And now keep in mind, this is a gentleman in the Hall of Fame. And once again, he was accused of being the recipient of a terrible decision against Manny Pacquiao in their first meeting. And he felt so bad about it, he even felt like taking his own life because he got so much criticism from the fans, from writers, from everyone, right? And so he finally learned what the actual scoring criteria was at this convention, and he talked about it last night if you watch Friday Night Fights. I call it Friday Night Fights because, it was a broadcast on Friday night on ESPN. And look, guys, and there's a reason why they staged it on Friday night, because in this season, and you're going to see this as a result on the calendar, on the boxing schedule, there are going to be less big events. With the exception of Canelo, there are going to be less big events during this football season because football is king within the American sports market, right? And so because they didn't want to interfere with the big NCAA college game day on ESPN, they staged the fights on Friday night. And he talked about all of the scoring. He goes, I couldn't believe I got it wrong completely. I had no idea. Here I am scoring fights on ESPN, and I completely got it wrong. Guys, it's what I've been telling you guys ever since we've had this channel. And how do I know this? I speak to judges on a regular basis about everything. I pick their brains. And I've been telling you guys, there is no corruption. Everyone who works within these state athletic commissions, California, Nevada, Texas, Florida, New York, they all have the health of the sport's health, its best interest at heart. No one wants to screw a fighter out of a deserved decision. Okay? And fans don't understand this. That there are consequences if you have a bogus scorecard. And I speak to these judges all the time. In fact, I just got off the phone with a very dear friend of mine, Joel Elizondo. He's been scoring fights for the past 20 years, 30 years. And he says, you know what? we forget, because we are taught to look at a fight on a round by round basis and score it individually in individual rounds. And as soon as that round is finished, we turn in our scorecard and we try to forget about everything that happened in that round. And we score each individual round as its own individual fight. Now, it's very difficult to do, guys. And at the end of the day, when 12 rounds have been completed, they are praying that they have, and this is in the words of Joel, we're praying that we have a scorecard that's similar to the guy sitting across the ring apron from them, right? And, there he is. I just was talking about you. I just wanted to thank you, Gems, for once again being the gracious host and let me chop it up with you guys and let me do all my wacky impressions for you guys last night. I was doing Pat Summerall. Aikman to Irvin. Touchdown, Cowboys. Pat, did you have a sandwich over there, Pat? Anyway, I had too much fun. So thank you once again for being the gracious host, my friend. But he brought up something that I've already known for a very long time. And that most people, fans included, get the judging criteria totally wrong. And one thing that Tim Bradley is still getting wrong. He's like, you know what, man? The jab, it doesn't mean as much as a right hand. No, that's where he gets it wrong, guys, because the scoring criteria is clean of the primary scoring criteria. And once again, this is all they look at. And I've been telling you guys this for a very long time. Okay, am I back on, guys? Can you guys hear me okay? All right, very good. I thought I would have to, I don't know why my Wi-Fi is acting up. It's a clear day outside today. It looks beautiful out here on my patio. But guys, clean, effective, and consequential punches. That's the primary scoring criteria. That determines everything. And one thing that I included, I often get wrong. I automatically think, well, the more effective and consequential punches landed are the harder punches, right? No. And that's where Tim Bradley's getting it wrong as well. Look, look at Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence specifically, right? What was the most effective punch landed in that second round? The most effective and consequential punch landed in that round. It was the jab. He did a brilliant job of timing Spence's volume jab and, well, just winning the jab contest, dominated, punishing him with that jab, right? And it was the most consequential and effective punch landed in rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And when he took that jab away by implementing his own jab, okay, so Gems has a point. The jab, but that was a swivel jab, which is a power punch. Yes, it is, but you've got to convince the idiots who actually control CompuBox of that, and they usually don't score it as a power punch. That's why I'm referring to. Now, once again, it's all about effectiveness, guys, and consequence. If that jab, if you're controlling the action, controlling distance, and it's having an effect, right? It's controlling the action, having a consequence on your opponent, then yes, you're going to win the round in that manner. You're going to win the round. On the jab alone, you can win a round. So once again, he's getting it wrong. It's all about consequence, guys. Clean, effective, and consequential punching. And if you can't determine who carries the round with that primary scoring criteria, then you go to the tiebreaker, which is effective aggression, ring generalship, right? Now, that's why it's the tiebreaker, because if you can't figure out from that initial scoring criteria who carries the round, well, then you look at who's the effective aggressor, who's the ring general, who's controlling the action, who's controlling range. And if one fighter is clearly controlling range, that means he's doing the more consequential, effective work with his punches thrown and landed, with his activity. Guys, I hope that makes sense to you, because it's very easy. Now, of course, when you get fights like, oh boy, there are a lot of last night, for instance, I saw a couple of swing rounds maybe. But in my opinion, yeah, Lopez was doing clearly the more consequential work, landing the more effective shots. His punches were obviously having the greater consequence, in my opinion. I scored that fight, and once again, I was talking too much, and I was laughing too much, and so I wasn't really focused and dialed in on the action. But from what I saw, I scored it 8-4. But guys, it's very simple to me, and I've been telling you guys this. And the reason why I know this, and I've always known this for the last several years, because I talk to these judges, and when they get it wrong, guys, they're reprimanded. Yeah, it wasn't tough to score, Gems. Not really. And once again, guys, they try to make it a more complicated process than it really is. You know, what punches are, and once again, the way Harold Letterman used to describe it, and that kind of confused fans. Okay, Jim, well, you know, it's whoever's doing the most damage, and it's as simple as that. At the end of the round, you look and see who did the most damage. Okay, that's the poor choice of words. Whose ever work had the greater consequence. Okay? Now, I used consequence instead of damage, because when you use damage, you get the perception that, well, it's a cut, it's a black eye, it's a busted lip, it's a busted nose, blood all over. No, it's the consequence of the action, the consequence of the activity, right? But Gems actually brings up a very good point. And once again, there are flaws in the scoring system. And keep in mind, it's not perfect, but it's the best one that we have. And what's the old saying? Is it really a problem if you can't come up with a better solution? No. Once again, the Olympics tried to make it a more fair process by counting the number of punches, clean punches landed. Well, how did that turn out? Well, two people couldn't even agree on that. Then they ended up having a panel of 5 different people pressing a button every single time a clean punch landed, and they couldn't even agree on that. And then, well, that didn't take into consideration the effectiveness and the consequence of the work. You could have a guy that's taller and rangier playing patty cake with no consequence winning the fight. So they changed that, and now they score in the Olympic, in the amateurs, a more pro style, right? Where they take into consideration the effectiveness and the consequence of the work, the activity. And once again, this is where a lot of fans get it wrong. The more consequential work doesn't necessarily mean that it's the harder puncher. Look at Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, right? You had Usyk dominating most of those rounds with his feints, with his jab, with his footwork. Freezing Anthony Joshua was a counterpuncher by trade, a pocket counterpuncher, right? Freezing him because of the effective feinting movement, the effective jab, his footwork pivoting around him, forcing him to move and reset. All right, consistently getting there first, controlling the action. Was he the harder puncher? No, by far. No, he would never be mistaken as the harder puncher of the two. But he did the more consequential work, and that's why he won both fights. Look at Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez. Floyd Mayweather would never at 47 or 54. Or what would technically it was 52, right? Yeah, Mayweather would never be he would never be listed as the harder puncher of the two. But he did the more consequential work with that beautiful jab, those beautiful reflexes, the footwork. And you could say he won the fight with the jab alone because he just froze. And once again, that's what an intelligent jab does, right? You mix it with Floyd's jab was beautiful, man, to the body, chest, and head. Froze his opponents, stopped them in their tracks. And you know what? He was the best at limiting a customarily offensive machine and reducing their offense to little to nothing. He was brilliant. And he would use the jab intelligently. And once again, this is where Tim is getting it wrong. Because, yes, you can win the round and carry the round with the jab alone if it's doing the more consequential work, the more effective work, right? And once again, he did it by feinting, touch jabs, hard sticking jabs, and mixing them, using and throwing them in disjunct different intervals to where it's virtually impossible to, well, predict when he's going to let his hands go. Using it in different areas, using it in different intervals. And if you're a counterpuncher by trade like Canelo Alvarez, well, it's virtually impossible to understand when he's going to let his hands go and you can't time it. It's the more consequential and effective work, guys. And so that's it. It's that simple, guys. Here's where the scoring criteria really fails the fighters and the fans. And this is what Gems and I were talking about last night, right? They still don't address the issue of scoring even rounds and the importance of that. And I hope you guys understand this. There's no reason why. And I'm going to go back to Haney Lomachenko, and I brought this up last night on Ryan's show. This is a real problem in boxing. You should not reward a fighter for winning a fight. You shouldn't give them the decision by eking out a very uneventful round, a feeling out round to begin the fight. If it's an uneventful round that's too close to call, or a round that's just way too close to call, you should call it a 10-10. Because once again, you don't give a fighter extra points for dominating a round if you don't have the benefit of a 2-point round or a knockdown. So once again, you go to Haney Lomachenko. The first 2 rounds were all scored and given to Devin Haney. 2 uneventful rounds in which not much happened. And then you look at rounds 10 and 11, huge Lomachenko rounds in which he dominated him, beat him from pillar to post. How were they scored? 10-9. How were the first 2 rounds scored? 10-9. That's a push. Guys, that's a real problem when scoring a prize fight. And it's an imperfection. And they still haven't addressed that. I still have a huge problem with that. Guys, if you dominate your fighter or your opponent and you beat him from pillar to post just like Lomachenko did Haney in rounds 10 and 11, dominate. Even though there's no knockdown, you should reward that. Judges should score that 10-8 in favor of Lomachenko. And in the Haney, the first 2 rounds should have been scored 10-10. They were even rounds, not much happened, and there was very little separating the two. That's a huge problem when scoring a prize fight. Those are the only real problems I have with the scoring process. Otherwise, it's very, very simple. I think they should bring back 10-10 rounds, and I think they should give extra credit for the fighters when they deserve it without the benefit of a knockdown, right? Like you see some judges, like if a guy is dominated, like let's go back to Steve Cunningham versus, let me look it up so I don't murder his name, right? This was back several years ago. Steve Cunningham, when he fought the gentleman from Poland. And his name isn't jumping off my brain, so let me see if I can get this right. Hold on. Not Glavatsky, not Glaskov, Tomas Adamek, in which that was for the cruiserweight, IBF cruiserweight, right? Title, in which Steve Cunningham lost a split decision. There were rounds in that fight in which Steve Cunningham was clearly winning. And then all of a sudden he got caught with a straight right hand and down he went. Well, how do you score that round, guys? How do you score that round? Do you give Steve Cunningham extra credit for winning the round for 2.5 minutes? How would you score that? Me, personally, in my opinion, I would score that round 10-9. Well, wait a minute, Joseph. There's a knockdown. Yes, there is. So, obviously, Tomas Adamek gets the benefit of that, and he wins the round. But should it be a 10-8 if Cunningham was clearly winning the round? The entire round up to that point. I would score that a 10-9. And once again, judges should be given that freedom to be able to score fights. But once again, that's frowned upon to the state athletic commissions. Oh, you should give a fighter a 2-point round just for a knockdown. Really, even though if he's not winning the round up to that point. Right? Why not? Does that make sense to you guys? How do you guys feel about that? Please let me know in the comment section. But guys, the scoring criteria is very simple. And fans, writers, fighters even, guys doing commentary, they try to make it more difficult than it actually is. There's only one primary scoring criteria: clean, effective, and consequential punching. That's it. And if that doesn't determine who wins the round, then you go to your secondary scoring criteria. In essence, it's basically a tiebreaker. Whoever is controlling range, whoever's controlling distance, whoever is controlling the action, ring generalship, effective aggression, then that's who carries the round, because whoever is doing that, ultimately, their work is more effective and consequential. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. And there it is, guys. Let me know what you think. But that's about it, guys. Very, very simple. Another misnomer. People in Tim Bradley touch on this, didn't even know. And when we clueless this, and probably know the judges when they get a scorecard wrong in their opinion. It's a subjective thing, and they're so adamant that they're wrong about this. Oh, it's a robbery. There's no consequence either. They don't have to answer to anybody. They're just, no, dude, yes, they do. Yes, they do, guys. These guys. I've known this for years, and I've already told you guys, there's no corruption within the state athletic commissions. They do not want to see a gallant warrior gets screwed on the judges' scorecards. They don't want controversy. That's bad for business. And yes, it's a subjective process, right? It's a subjective process. Oh, look. Ryan says this. I think specific scenarios make the scoring criteria a bit less black and white. Well, it's not absolute, so it's not black and white. It's a subjective process. You have to use your judgment, but you have to be educated. You have to be coached. You have to be mentored. And guys, the process is for these judges. They don't just pull some guys off the street. Most of the time, they consist of former fighters, guys who have been around this business for a very long time. And they start scoring fights in the amateur level, right? And if the head of the department, right, likes the activity and thinks that their scorecards are accurate, then they move them up to the club level. And if they're doing well, scoring fights actively or accurately, the head of the department then moves them up to the regional level, bigger assignments. And if you keep on scoring fights accurately and competently, then you start getting the big assignments. The state athletic commissions, the sanctioning organizations, the promoters, they start. Oh, Jesus. Heidel, brother, you're clueless, man. And you know what? It's comments like this, dude, that really hinder and are a detriment to the health of the sport. It's nonsense and noise. You're regurgitating horse shit. This is what this channel is for. We always profess and explain the business of boxing, so guys like yourself don't have any misconceptions about how the process is. Don't the promoters choose the judges by sliding an envelope like PVC? Oh, geez. Promoters, they can approve of a judge, right? And they get a list. Okay, these are the judges that the state athletic commissions, these are the judges that we're going to use for this fight. Pick one. The other team picks one, and we'll pick another one. It's a very fair process. No fucking envelope, no shadiness. You've been listening to too much Teddy Atlas, my friend. Welcome to the show, sir, and thank you for joining us. But that's a process, guys. And if you screw up, if you turn in too many bad scorecards or ones that are completely deviant from the other two judges, well, then you're going to get demoted. You're going to get back sent down to the club level. That's the way it works. Or worst case scenario, you get suspended for 6 months up to a year. And if you continue to turn in terrible scorecards, they will make you a timekeeper. They'll make you an inspector. You know, the guys that sign off, the guys who inspect while you're taping hands? Yeah, those guys couldn't cut it as judges. The guys who were in the corners say, hey, chief seconds out. Those guys, yeah, they couldn't cut it as judges. They'll find a place for you. They'll keep you working, but just not scoring a prize fight. Because once again, there's too much on the line. The state athletic commissions do not want any gallant warrior who takes punishment for our entertainment to get screwed on the judges' scorecards because of someone's incompetence. But make no mistake about it, guys. Unlike Teddy Atlas's idiotic way of thinking, it's corruption, it's a robbery. You know, we're mad as heck, and we're not going to take it anymore. Kiss my ass, Teddy. And this is a gentleman who should know better. Tim Bradley should have known this already. Guys, all you have to do is talk to these guys. They couldn't make it as judges, but slow walking Sleepy Joe made it as a president. Well, that's because who was responsible for voting him in? Right? Thank goodness that's not the case with the judges at ringside. Guys, ask yourselves, why does Steve Weisfeld, Tim Cheatham, and David Sutherland consistently get the big assignments? Because they're the most accurate and consistent. I guarantee you, the judges who are going to be assigned to Canelo Charlo, more than likely, guys, are going to be Steve Weisfeld, David Sutherland, and Tim Cheatham. And why? Because they're by far the most accurate. What happened to CJ Ross when she was reprimanded for her terrible scorecard at Canelo Mayweather? Well, she was suspended and she, retired as a result. Right? What happened to, what's her name? Adelaide Byrd, after the first Canelo Triple G fight, scoring that fight 10-2 for Canelo. Yeah, she was suspended. Guys, no one is in this business to screw a hardworking fighter out of an opportunity. Someone should tell that to Frank Martin. Guys, it's very simple. And once again, how do I know this? Because I'm in this fucking business, guys. I talk to these guys all the time. And I've been telling you for a very long time that this is the scoring criteria. CompuBox really doesn't tell you shit. You shouldn't even take that into consideration. I don't even know why they still show that stat on the screen. Because do CompuBox numbers, does that say anything about effectiveness or consequence? How do you know, according to punch stats, how do you know who's doing the more effective and consequential work? Is it who's got the most punches landed or thrown and landed that round? Last time I checked, CompuBox didn't really take into consideration how clean the punch was, how effective it was, or how hard it was. What was the consequence of that punch? Did it have an effect on his opponent? So guys, quit bringing up CompuBox when trying to win an argument or trying to say, hey, my guy really won the fight. Okay? And once again, guys, most fans, they will look at the fight action and not score it on a round-by-round basis and make the stupid mistake of thinking that if it's a close scorecard, 7-5, that means it was a close competitive fight. No, that's not the case. Because of the way the fights are scored, you could have a very close competitive fight, but if you can make the case of one fighter winning every round, then it has the potential of being scored that way. You could see a very close competitive war being scored, a complete shutout, 12-0. Like last night, that fight was very competitive. Both guys made a very solid account of themselves. And, oh man, those judges, those scorecards were way too wide. Well, could you make a case for Venado Lopez winning 9 of those rounds, 8 of those rounds, 10 of those rounds? Yes? Well, then that's how it was scored. Oh, but that fight was a lot more competitive than that. It should have been scored at least 7-5, maybe even a draw. Look, once again, it does not reflect the competitive nature of a fight. It's scored on a round-by-round basis. And if you can see one fighter winning 9 of those rounds, and that's how it's going to be scored. Is that making sense to all of you guys? I hope it's making sense to all of you guys. And once again, a draw or a close scorecard doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't a one-sided ass whooping, right? So in the case, now I bring this up all the time. Look at Lamont Peterson versus Danny Garcia, right? In which Danny Garcia was basically putting rounds in the bank by doing really nothing because Lamont Peter wasn't doing anything. He wasn't landing in or throwing or landing any consequential or effective clean punches. He was basically giving Danny Garcia for the first half of the fight, giving him every round. And then he started finding range around 7, 8, 9, 10. and he started dominating Danny Garcia. But it was too little too late. And to anyone who's not scoring that fight on a round-by-round basis, they look at that, oh my gosh, Danny Garcia by unanimously, he got his ass whooped. Yeah, because he won 7 or 8 of those rounds. Lamont Peterson started way too late. Guys, you could have 6 rounds, right? A fighter wins, barely ekes out 6 rounds. Then you could have the other fighter just dominating without a knockdown now, without a knockdown, dominating him for the other 6 rounds, the back half of the fight. And unless there's a knockdown, all those rounds are going to be scored the same way, 10-9. 6 one way, 6 the other way. Guess what? That's a draw. Even though the fans at home, they look at that and say, oh my gosh, how's it a draw? That dude got his ass whooped. Guys, that's how fights are scored. Okay, now, this is an anomaly. I talk about, yeah, no corruption. But guys, this is an anomaly. This isn't the norm. I can tell you there is no defending Michael Fox and Gabriel Maestre in that fight. And I can tell you with great certainty, that was one of the very rare fights in which, yes, there was clear corruption going on. And I'll tell you why. And I got the skinny on this. Because Gilberto Mendoza Jr., the head of the WBA, is doing something that he shouldn't be doing. And that he's managing fighters indirectly. Notice where all of these guys come from. He's from Panama, but his family is originally from Colombia. So if you notice, he gives great opportunities to some fighters from Colombia. Guys, that's because he's managing these guys. Right? That's why they got the favorable scorecard. He picked out these judges for this assignment. Clear corruption on this. I cannot defend this, and I know this for a fact. Guys, no head of a sanctioning organization should be managing fighters. And for that reason, the WBA is complete horseshit. Complete horseshit. And I don't put any credence in this. And once again, in my opinion, everyone should stop placing so much emphasis on the powerless sanctioning organizations from this point forward. And I'm talking about fans, promoters, fighters, networks. Stop recognizing these assholes and just start recognizing the only belt that really matters, the one that clearly has the best ranking system, and that's the Ring magazine, the Ring belt. Okay, the Ring belt is the one that really matters, right? Chances are, if 2 fighters are competing for the Ring, yeah, they're 2 of the best fighters in that division, if not the 2 best. That solves everything, guys. That solves everything. And the best part of it, they don't tax these hardworking fighters. They don't take a dime. Okay? Now, once again, I hope all of this helps, guys. I'm going to bring up and talk about something in the final, I guess, 10, 15 minutes of this program, right? I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I wish I could say I'm going to go watch the Zepeda fight with my brother Jims, but no, I've got a date, and so I'll be spending it with a young lady. Well, not so young, but young to me. Young at heart, put it that way. Because I'm not a spring chicken either. I'm an old codger. But guys, I'm going to talk about 2 things. Once again, congratulations to my brother G Funky Boxing for breaking the news on FightSaga.com. Look for it, guys. He broke news yesterday that Ryan Garcia on FightSaga.com, Ryan Garcia will be back in the ring on November 18th. Everyone got it wrong, and no, it's not going to be Pedro Campa. More than likely, it's going to be O'Hara Davies, guys. We don't know that for sure, and that wasn't revealed Golden Boy Promotions and Ryan Garcia are keeping the opponent a secret because they want to announce that exclusively, and they're going to do that within the next couple weeks. But I've been told from everyone close to all parties involved, put it that way, to this fight, several people, that yes, there is an opponent. He's already been slated. It's already official, and they're going to announce it themselves. But make no mistake about it, guys. It's going to be on November 18th, and more than likely, it's going to be on DAZN, regular subscriber DAZN. Now, imagine that. A big ticket seller and a major attraction, mainstream attraction like Ryan Garcia being featured on DAZN, regular subscriber DAZN, and then you get two non-ticket selling bitches like Ryan or like Devin Haney and Regis Fagrias on pay-per-view? Once again, guys, and we've been telling you guys this for a very long time, this is the consequence of inflated purses. Right? This is what a detriment it is to the health of the sport. Keep in mind, once again, guys, because of our experience and our tenure within this business, everyone on this channel, we have no bias, no dog in the hunt. We don't care. Just like my brother Gems, right? He doesn't care. He's all about the film study. He doesn't have a dog in the hunt, right? All we care about is the health of the sport. That's why we consistently profess the business, okay? If it's something, our only bias is that if something is terrible for the health of the sport, we're going to call it out. Like Terrence Crawford talking shit, just trashing the sport and the business that made him a very wealthy man and a big, big star. Yes, and I'm going to continue doing it, whether or not fans agree with it. Once again, guys, I'm not telling you something in my opinion. No, it's the absolute truth. And I know this with great certainty. And why and how? Because I've been in this business for 20 years. I actually know how this shit works. And if you don't hear it on other channels, that should tell you something. But I'm not going to talk about something and word it as the absolute truth unless I absolutely know it's the absolute truth. Okay, here it is. Those LDVCers always say, how can it be fair if the ring is owned by Oscar? Because Oscar doesn't control it. Oscar doesn't control it. It's not run that way. And they have a panel of fight scribes and people who actually do business and work with the ring that unbiasedly, and they vote on it. That's it. They have a panel who votes on it, just like any sanctioning organization. But they don't make any money from these fighters. They don't have a dog in the hunt, guys. That should tell you everything. Okay? They're like, once again, ask yourself, why is Canelo not being stripped? Why is Jermall Charlo not being stripped of the WBC? Have they ever defended that trinket? Why is Gilberto Mendoza not stripping Canelo of never, ever since winning the WBA strap? Okay? Why hasn't he been stripped? He hasn't defended that strap in 2 years. Ask yourself why. Because it makes more money if it's around their waist. Guess what, guys? The ring doesn't have that issue. If you don't compete for an entire year, they will yank you of that distinction. You are no longer then the ring champion. If you don't compete for an entire year, they will take you off their rankings and they will yank you of that distinction. It's very simple. That's why Tyson Fury is no longer the ring champion, and Usyk is. He retired. Technically, formally, he retired. So guess what? They yanked him of that distinction. Did the WBC? No. And why? Because it's worth more around his waist. That should tell you everything. So don't worry about it. If Oscar De La Hoya technically owns the ring, he's not involved. He's not involved. He's the benefactor, but he's not involved. And Doug Fisher would tell you the exact same thing, right? I hope that answers your question, one triple S, right? Thank you for being here, my friend. Sid UK. Joe, how do you see the Charlo-Canelo fight going? I favor Canelo because of the pressure, power, and granite chin. But a lot of clown media are saying Charlo wins because of bad work they've seen. Well, look, brother, most of the media, most of the fans really don't know what the fuck they're looking at. Okay? It's very, very simple. Look, the closer we get to the fight, we'll make our predictions. But look, guys, just wait for Gogi's big fight preview, right? Because this gentleman, lot like Gems, Ryan from Boxing Gems, right? A lot like Gems, very seldom does he get a pick incorrect. Once again, both Ryan and Gogi told you guys that Terrence Crawford was going to make this look like easy work, real easy work, and no one believed it. I didn't even believe it. And guess what? How did it play out? Looked like easy work, real easy work. Dude, he looked. Oh my gosh, it wasn't even competitive. So, guys, I'm not going to make a prediction. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight until it isn't. Without saying much, that says it all. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight until it isn't. Low Clarity has the beat. We've learned much from Ryan. Yes, as you still should continue to learn. Ryan is a credit to the business and a credit to the health of the sport. And he's one of the only channels that I will endorse wholeheartedly because it's great for the health of the sport. The more knowledge that fans have, the better for the health of the sport. Low Clarity, how many other channels have you ever seen me endorse? On YouTube. How many? I endorse my man, G Funky, because he's a real journalist. He's very knowledgeable, and he keep subscribing to him as well because he's got a lot of great guests coming up, right? And I also endorse my brother, Boxing Source, my brother, J.R. Bell, because he's in this business. Both men, G Funky, J.R. Bell from the Boxing Source, they've both been in this business for over a decade, right? And they go cover these events, and they don't have a dog in the hunt. They're not fanboys. They're not haters, okay? And they understand the business of boxing. Boxing Gems, he's all about film study. He doesn't give a shit, man, about which fighter you're favoring or which fighter this fan is favoring. He's very unbiased because film study never lies. Okay? And guys, that's how we are. We have no dog in the hunt. The only bias that this channel has, and I'm speaking for everyone on it, okay? Rick Blazer, James Gogi, Ronnie Shields, G Funky, J.R. Bell, myself. The only thing we care about is the health of the sport. If it's good for the health of the sport, we wholeheartedly endorse it. If it's terrible for the health of the sport, we wholeheartedly condemn it. That's it. That determines everything, guys. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something which I think is very good for the sport and something that, in your verbiage, brother, LDB Sears, Triple S, the LDB Sears think, oh man, I've heard this from several people now. Several of my friends also who love Spence, and yeah, once again, I don't care. I don't have a dog in the hunt. Oh man, he's doing Spence dirty by doing this. Oh, how can Terrence Crawford say, wait a minute, you're not going to fight me at 54? You're only going to give me a rematch if I can move on to 40? Look, honestly, he should get the Nobel Peace Prize and a humanitarian award for doing this because he is saving Errol Spence from taking more life-altering and career-altering damage, punishment, another colossal ass whooping. Honestly, does anyone care to see that rematch? Who else besides the LDBCers, whatever the hell those guys are, whatever you call them? How many people outside of those idiots who don't even know what they're looking at in the ring anyway, how many outside of those idiots want to see this rematch? Is there a need for it? Were there any questions unanswered after the first fight? Shit. So in my opinion, Terrence Crawford is doing the right thing. Hey, man, I'll give you the rematch, but you're going to have to make 47. That is the exact same thing as pricing yourself out, gentlemen. And you can't blame him. He's doing the right thing. And he says, well, there's no need. I'm moving on. I'm moving on to greener pastures. I've already proven that I'm the better man. And no, 54 and 60, 68, 75, heavyweight, that's not going to change a damn thing. And if you know what you're looking at in the ring, and if you see how Terrence Crawford dissected Errol Spence Jr. and put him in checkmate as early as the end of the first round, if you understand what you're looking at, there's no need for a second fight. Guys, it's very simple. He smoked him like a cheap cigar with the jab alone. Let's go full circle now, back to our initial conversation. Power punch doesn't necessarily have to be the more consequential and effective punch landed. Okay? A right hand or a left hand, a backhand, doesn't necessarily have to be the more consequential and most consequential and effective punch used within a round. Guys, the most effective punch in that entire first fight between Crawford and Spence was that brilliant lead hand from the southpaw position of Terrence Crawford. Oh boy, he timed him like a fucking clock and took his jab away. How did he take his jab away? By pounding it, pushing it forward, punching between his own jab. Terrence Crawford punished him with that lead hand, discouraged him from throwing it again. And without that lead hand, his first line of defense, the punch that sets the table for his entire arsenal of punches. Okay, without that lead hand, Errol Spence was lost. That's going to happen again, guys. That's going to happen again. And it's funny, Ryan said something hilarious. He goes, look, man, I don't want to see this rematch unless Terrence Crawford, chooses to fight from the orthodox position the entire fight. And I'm like, I don't even want to see it then. Because he'll find a way to beat him. He'll still find a way to take away that jab, more than likely using lateral movement. Two effective ways to win the jab contest or neutralize an opponent's effective jab, customarily effective jab. One, win the jab contest. Terrence Crawford did that brilliantly. It shuts him down. It discourages him from using it from this point forward. Right? Or use lateral movement. Okay? Both of them work like a charm. And Crawford is capable of doing both very proficiently. The only way I want to see this rematch is if it comes in with a Sunday morning hangover. That's it. And maybe ties his one hand behind his back. That's it. Otherwise, it's not really a fair fight, guys. And there's no point. LDBC, loin disturbing broke clowns. That's a true meaning of that group of hateful idiots. They cry racism while being racist. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, though, guys. But, yes, once again, that's the always look for hypocrisy, guys, when identifying idiots, right? once again, guys, on this channel, and once again, I hope you guys realize I don't have a dog in the hunt. I am not biased. I speak the truth on this channel, the absolute truth about the business. And if you don't like what I'm telling you, that doesn't make it any less true. When I talk about Terrence Crawford being, well, espousing nonsense and noise, bashing the business, speaking just complete misnomers about the business, complete ignorance, it doesn't make it any less true. I understand, oh, look, he just doesn't like Terrence Crawford. No, that has nothing to do with anything. I love me some Terrence Crawford. In fact, he was one of my favorite fighters until he started espousing all of this toxic bullshit, which is detrimental to the health of the sport. And the only reason why I bring it up as often as I do, because it is so potentially harmful to the health of the sport. Guys, perception in any entertainment field is everything, right? That's it. That's it, guys. It's no different than Amber Heard accusing Johnny Depp of being a fucking wife beater when he really wasn't. It's that detrimental and that harmful. What happened to his career after that? Well, he lost his job. Guys, we lose fans. If everyone believes that it is a corrupt, shady sport, we lose fans. We lose sponsorship. We lose TV dates. Guys, I hope you understand that. This business is a symbiont industry. We all depend on each other. And you guys are the real bosses of boxing. You guys are the ultimate, the best ambassadors we have. And why? Because you go and talk to everybody. Guys, quit bad-mouthing your favorite sport, because most of these idiotic, ignorant talking points, it's just nonsense and noise, and it stems from ignorance. Guys, and here's the genesis of it, right? Most fans, right? Not you guys. You guys are great. Our WAWR Week Radio extended family, you guys are obviously smarter than the rest, or you wouldn't be here. Understanding the business of boxing, listening and learning to gentlemen who have been in this business for decades, okay? But most fans, they actually think they're experts. And why? Because they can tell you who the IBF title holder is in any division? Does that make them an expert? Well, compared to their next door neighbors, compared to the person standing in line next to them at the grocery store, I'm sure they feel that way. But look, if you've never been around or worked in this business for a considerable amount of time, you really don't know nearly as much as you think you do. And I'm so happy to say that all of you guys who have been with us, WAWR Week Radio, been with guys like my brother Boxing Gems for a considerable amount of time, yes, you have an advantage over all of them. You know a great deal more than all of those other clowns who visit and frequent those other just nonsense and noise channels. So thank you for hanging with us. Thank you for being a part of our WAWR Week Radio extended family. And thank you for always supporting our beloved boxing. Once again, guys, if it's good for the health of the sport, we fully endorse it. If it's bad for the health of the sport, then we will condemn it as long as it's out there. And guys, all of these channels who espouse nonsense and just pass around dog shit, pass around just misnomers and ignorance, that is completely terrible for the health of the sport. Okay? And we're trying to rectify all of that slowly, day by day. Thank you guys for joining us. Oh, my brother Dirty Red, thank you for hanging with us last night, man. We had so much fun. And yeah, man, I had a great time, man. What were we on there for, like 4 hours? We were on there last night. Anyway, thank you for being a part of that broadcast, and thank you for supporting my brother Boxing Gems. Ryan, always a superb job, and thank you for being a WAWR Week Radio extended family member. And I wish you had come sooner, but in case you missed any of the show, guys, go ahead and pull the rewind button. Or you can listen to it some other time later this week. But guys, don't forget, tomorrow evening, we are going to visit with Gogi in his big fight preview. Big fight preview of Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang. That's next Saturday. But guys, enjoy the Zepeda fight tonight. Zepeda versus Mercito Hesta should be an interesting fight. And we'll talk about it tomorrow with Maestro James Gogi, a gentleman who I am convinced has the best set of eyes in the business. Guys, thank you once again for hanging with us. And once again, if you like all of the content that we provide for you, James Gogi, Rick Glazer, Ronnie Shields, 1, 2, 3 Punch, Monday or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. If you like all of our content, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and please tell anyone who is in dire need of hearing the truth about their favorite pastime, boxing. Guys, once again, I really appreciate you guys being here, and I love all of you. And we will see you tomorrow. God bless all of you guys. On behalf of everyone here at WAWR Week Radio, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to WAWR Week Radio. Have a great Saturday night, everybody.
FightSaga.com and Halftime Pizza proudly present WAWR Week Radio Chats with ring announcer and commentator Joseph Herron.